Take two should be live.
It's flashing.
It flashed it.
I'm still showing CCGC.
It says you're live, but it shows CCGC.
Still showing CCGC?
For me it is, yeah.
Refresh the page.
I'm refreshing. Alright, it's up for me.
Hey.
I have to refresh.
There we go.
Alright, sorry about that, guys. Had some technical difficulties. It wouldn't stream for some reason. Alright, so it looks like everything's working. So, everybody, welcome to episode 9 of The Elder Scrolls Uncovered. This week we have with us Mr. Faceless, Glandict.
Hello.
We have Hayyt.
Hello.
We have, joining us for the first time, Guilo.
Hello.
We also have with us Altair.
Hello.
And Rapid.
Hello, friends.
You say friends as if it's a nice thing.
We try to be.
Yeah. So this week, we got a couple topics to talk about, but first let's talk about some of the exciting news that happened this week. Beta signups.
Awesome.
Yes, the beta signups were quite awesome. I mean, I woke up Tuesday, I was like, I was a little hungover. But I woke up, I was tired, came downstairs, and I saw that on Twitter, and I was like, really? It's got to be a joke. First thing, it's got to be a joke.
I've got a good story. I was in class, just like sat down right to class. It was about to start. My phone told me I had an email. I checked it. Beta signups. Like, oh my gosh, 3 hours of classes.
Just got to leave school now. Just walk out. I got diarrhea. Gotta go.
Yeah, I was at work when the beta signups released, and I can remote into my desktop from work, so I signed up at work and did got the system info from work and sent it in at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon at work.
It worked out for me. I was just home, ready.
I was home, didn't notice it. Didn't get an email until Kurth told me what yesterday, but should be good. Excellent chances, or so they tell me.
I think it's gonna be one of those moments where, one of those moments in histories where you're always like, where were you when the beta signups came out? So let's jump into our topics. First topic is the question of the week. It was a weird question of the week this week. It was about, so some of the characters in the Elder Scrolls lore, their ideas, their plans, their schemes don't always work out. What is your favorite bad idea? Let's start with Rapid.
Oh man, putting me on the spot. Okay, I got it. My favorite bad idea is start a Skyrim. Prisoners like freaking out, the one that you've been talking to all the time, makes a break for it, and all of a sudden the archer just pulls out that arrow, dunk, and he's down. That was a bad idea.
What about you, Altair? Do you have anything? Any bad idea favorite moments?
Bad idea favorite moments? No, not really. Not right now. I'll come back to that.
What about you, Guilo? You got anything?
Mine would probably have to be the Mace of Balag Mall quest line in Skyrim. You spend a few quests building up to this point where you're helping this priest out, and then all of a sudden, this little kid comes up to you and has you kidnap the priest, or something along those lines, and you beat the guy to death about 3 or 4 times, and then just backfired for him trying to beat the devil out of him, and then now he's ended up serving him. Way to go.
Hayyt, do you have anything?
I got nothing. I was
got
racking
nothing?
my brain. Yeah, I was racking my brain about it and just couldn't come up with anything.
And Glandict, Mr. Lore, do you have anything?
Well, my favorite actually was more of a system glitch more than anything, but I'm still gonna tell it anyways. It was in Oblivion, and if anyone remembers the Northern Mountains, there's a couple camps up there, and I forget the exact storyline, but something caused mayhem and everyone scattered, and one of the main guys just took a beeline right off a cliff, and It's pretty entertaining to watch him just fall to his death. So it was more of a glitch because I don't think he was supposed to run that direction or whatever he did, but it was still entertaining.
It looks like that one there is Almer's favorite one too. I wish I had one. To be honest with you, I don't. I'm not a really big fan of this question, just because it doesn't partake to everybody, so I can't really answer that question. So let's kind of go off of this one because I don't like this topic, and talk about the public dungeons. So, has anybody read my article on the public dungeons?
No.
Of course not.
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Somebody has. Yay, I feel special. So let's start with Glandic on this one. What's your opinions on the public dungeons?
Well, all in all, I'm excited to see that feature just because all the MMOs I've played has always been instance dungeons. So, from what you talked about in your article and what we talked about just in private chat and things like that, it's something I'm excited about, just to see how it works. My only big grief is, and this is just personal opinion, when I'm PvPing or when I'm PvEing, I would like to PvE. Sometimes I don't like too much PvP to get involved, and I just see that would be a big play in the open dungeons.
So, you're not a big fan of having the public dungeon in the PvP area?
Well, I mean, it most likely will be. I mean, from what we know and from what they've even told already, at least one will be. That one will be interesting. I may love it. I may love it. It's hard for me to imagine what it'll be like until we get to play the game.
What about you, Gooey? What do you think? What do you think of public dungeons?
I'm torn on it because I'm trying to think of any game that's even done anything remotely close to that, and I'm drawing a blank on it. At least none that I've played. The closest might be Star Wars Galaxies, where all the raids, all the big things that you had to kill were all open world. So if someone saw you coming and they tagged it before you did, then you're out of luck. PvP wasn't really that big of a deal with it, but I can understand why that would be an issue, because if I'm there working through something, I don't want to have to deal with it, but at the same time, I mean, I guess it's just, you know what you're getting into. But I like the idea of, if you're in a group, or you're in an area and a group comes up and they want to join you and they want to help you, you don't necessarily have to be in the same group to work together. I think that's going to add an interesting dynamic to the dungeon, and I'm wondering if they're going to do any scaling based on how many people are in the group, or how many people are in the area working together, and how they would manage that, because that would be an interesting element too, because that would increase the difficulty and would make it less of a face roll just because it's getting zerged, because I don't want to see that where it just becomes a giant zerg.
Yeah, you mentioned that you didn't play any of the games that had it. Dark Age of Camelot's a big one. Elder Scrolls. Ultima Online's a big one, and EverQuest was huge for public dungeons and open dungeons. Now, for people that don't know, public dungeons is essentially a instance dungeon, but anybody can enter it. So it's not a minimum of 5 people, 10 people. Anybody can come in. In most cases, it is. In most previous cases, public dungeons tend to have multiple access points, so the opposing faction can enter them, but there's rules to engagements as to how they can get into them. And like Glam said, he's not a big fan of the PvP aspect of it, but the fact that there's a cap on it as to which side can get in, I think will help alleviate that stress. Now, what do you guys think of having a raid inside a public dungeon?
I think honestly that would be real interesting. You got a raid going on in a public dungeon, and you have other people have the ability to gank you while you're doing that. It would add to the level of difficulty. I'm all about difficult shit, so the more difficult I think the better, especially if you can overcome and defeat the raid while being attacked by other people. I think that would make it very interesting and fun.
I've got some experience kind of in an MMO that had public dungeons as well as a raid in a public dungeon. In Anarchy Online, all the dungeon areas were public, so whatever quest sent you there to do whatever, it was all open. A lot of problems with that is, if it was like PvP enabled, you'd have that. People would be camping the quest mob, so that was kind of negative. But it just kind of added something more to it. For me, like, the WoW style dungeon is kind of just stale. Go in, you know exactly what's going to happen. Everything's scripted. This is how it goes. This is what you do. Here's your loot at the end. With a public dungeon, it kind of adds some new spark to it. And then with the raid in it, the one in Anarchy Online was Camelot, and there was huge battles of like 100 people all fighting over one mob. It was all about controlling like one choke point in there, and that created like a ton of like really good community in the game, really good competition. It ended up being a lot of fun. I'm not sure how well that can work in like a modern day MMO though, but I don't know, I'm a little bit torn on this issue.
I think it can work. It just depends on how they scale it, right? Like basically a population cap or something else. If you end up with an unbalanced side, it's going to turn into unfortunately, WoW. Like when new content comes out, Horde's always out there ganking you. You can't really accomplish anything. You end up giving up for a week and coming back once things have calmed down. If they can overcome that aspect, I think it has the potential of being a lot of fun. And like you guys have said, bringing a new level of competition and skill to the game.
If I would have one comment on at least one thing they have going for them, something we were planning on talking about later, is their loot system. I mean, that is definitely something that will help them with this goal rather than hinder them. So that's nice, and the structure, as long as they keep the structure well. I like the idea of an open raid. My only ever concern is how much time are you going to waste in an open raid only to find out that what you're going in for is already killed, or you're already waiting for like 2 other groups that are waiting to kill it as well. That's the only thing I see myself getting annoyed with.
Yeah, like, I mean, when I was playing Dark Age of Camelot, we would take Darkness Falls away from, say, Hibernia, and we would go in, we'd go to their side first, kill everybody that we possibly can, and then take that zerg of people and go down into that raid and start killing off the mobs and get some seals. Sometimes it was really fun because you would go do one of the side bosses down there, and you would encounter one of the enemy forces raids that are down there. So that became a major battle. Like, it was just awesome. If you ever get some time, hit up YouTube and look for Darkness Falls raid videos, and you'll see some really nice encounters between like 50-some people versus like 25 people. There's some really good videos where you get like the 50-person Zerg getting defeated by an 8-person Zerg, and that I'm really hoping is what Elder Scrolls is going to be about, where 8 people can take out a Zerg efficiently, as long as they are played properly. And I think Rapid hit the nail on the head when he was saying that the instances are becoming a little bit stale. I mean, you can only do that so often. And World of Warcraft started out with open concept battles where they had open raid bosses, and they kind of got rid of the open dragons, like the raid bosses outside. But now they're starting to bring it back. I wonder if this is something that they saw coming. They're like, hey, let's try and jump on this before it becomes really big and we lose everybody.
I mean, it definitely might be. One thing I can say that they have to work on is the Zerg factor. I understand they don't want to make a boss be killable with too few people, but to bring it back to the game we're talking about is just get rid of the Zerg factor. I don't want to be able to roll over an open world raid boss like you can with Shaw of Anger right now, pretty much. You get a full raid group, which doesn't always seem too difficult to bring up as long as you got enough players, and it's just cake sauce. And I definitely would like to see some more strategy in something this big.
Yeah, I think strategy will play a big part in public dungeons. Now, they also said that they will have public dungeons that are PvE, so there's only going to be your side of the faction in there, as well as instance dungeons. So even if you don't like the idea of the PvP, PvE public dungeons, you still have your pick and flavor of the PvE or instance side of it. It sounds like ZeniMax is really doing a lot of research, making sure all the aspects and that people are enjoying is going to be somehow put into the game, which makes me slightly worried that dailies are going to be in the game.
That's very. I like that they're taking the time to research what people want. Whereas with WoW, it was basically, here's your instances, here's your dailies, here's what we like. But with this, they're actually taking the time to see what the community wants, and the fact that they're doing some that are PvE, that are open raid, some that are PvP, some that are instance, some that aren't. That's a very good mix. And I understand where you're saying that might not be a good sign because of dailies and stuff, but I think it's a good sign that they're willing to listen to the community, because we saw that somewhat with SWTOR, and that was a very good touch that they had. They just didn't follow through with it. So hopefully they follow through with it.
Another kind of interesting thing on the public dungeons is, I mean, obviously it can't be too public because you're on a mega server, there's thousands of people. I mean, obviously you can't fit thousands of people down into one dungeon. It's going to have to be instant somehow. So a lot of it, I guess, depends on how big or how many people they let in that public dungeon, or if you can select which public dungeon you want to go into.
Well, at that point, where does it lose its public aspect?
Well, but it just depends. Again, you know, as I mentioned, when a bunch of us have mentioned it, it's a population cap of some kind, and they've got to find that happy medium. And hopefully, like I said, it's very nice that they're researching everything, getting the player feedback, like the fan base feedback, and all that kind of stuff for what we're looking for. But you know, that has to be balanced as well. You can't have everything in one basket. You know, life just does not work like that usually. So, trying to put too much on their plate, I hope they don't do.
I just kind of had an interesting idea of something that they might do. You know, you go into the public dungeon, it puts you in a new one with people, they kind of join up, and then they kind of like let down the starting gate. So those people kind of, you know, people that you don't really know, do that dungeon together. Kind of adds a sense of it being public, but not necessarily like, you know, there's a guy sitting at the boss camping him for an hour, and then you come in the dungeon, you're at the beginning or something like that.
Well, your idea kind of sounds like a version of like looking for group, just more of a faster queue kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
really
think
hard.
it would still be pretty instanced that way. Like, just... I still think that loses a good bit of the public aspect. I mean, I guess it all depends on how many people you let in.
I would be worried about how it would balance different guilds. Like, if guilds wanted to raid at a certain time, what if a bunch of guilds wanted to raid at a certain time? Would the dungeon just be full with, let's say that the raid groups are 25 people, say that there's 4 people, or 4 groups, there's 100 people just flooding into a dungeon all at once. That would almost defeat the purpose, I would think.
Yeah,
unless
that would
they
suck.
unless they create bosses where that's necessary, which would be different.
Well, and the other question is, too, I mean, well, not the other question, the other thing to keep in mind is that this is only one of their forms. I mean, from what they said, there's still going to be your standard closed private dungeons, from what I remember. This is just another aspect, another benefit of the game.
Well, and I'm going from my past experiences. The raids in the public dungeons weren't key raids. Like, yeah, you would go down, but you wouldn't schedule a guild group or anything like that to go do it. You would just pop in and say, hey, does anybody want to do this? It's more of a... You would think of it more as doing like a World of Warcraft instance. You would just, hey, does anybody want to come do this instance? Sure, make a group and go and do it. Because they will still have your actual endgame raid instances. But yeah, like for the public dungeons, think of them more as a, I'm bored, I want to go do something. Let's see what we can get going.
That sounds like kind of like you say, looking for a group, right?
It's very similar to the looking for a group, as it's more based on when you want to do it. Because it's public and because it's mega server, even if they only have like a 400 or 500 cap on it, there's always going to be 400 or 500 people in these dungeons. because they'll be able to, if one dungeon's only got 25 people, they can phase them into another dungeon that has, we'll say, 475 people. So it'll cap it out. So there'll always be dungeons with people in it.
Yeah, and to touch on that, it goes back to kind of how WoW did it with their open dungeons and stuff like that. I don't recall a time where we scheduled for a Tuesday at 8 o'clock to go and fight Doom Lord Hazak or any of the other bosses that were open world. It was just kind of a spur of the moment, hey, I just flew by here, this guy's up, do you want to attack him type of deal. So I like that aspect, because if you're bored and you don't feel like crafting or doing the 50 million other things you're going to be able to do, it gives you a twist, and it has its own reward, because at cap level they have some decent loot, especially for newer level tunes, and if they do anything similar to the way WoW did it, some of the loot might be better than what you can get in some of the earlier endgame stuff.
Well, on the topic of loot, I mean, everybody here is excited about the loot system. I'm pretty sure nobody in this chat, or even in the stream or in the chat, can say, you know what, this loot system sucks. I mean, they've adapted the Guild Wars 2 loot system and kind of went with it and added their own Elder Scrolls feel to it. And what I mean by that is, with the combination of the finesse and soft synergy system that they're putting into the game, kind of like if you have a high finesse bar, so if you're doing your combat really well, you're going to get either more loot, better loot, or more experience, depending on whichever three you get. I don't know the mechanic yet. They haven't really announced how it's going to work. So it all ties together with ZeniMax trying to make sure everything is fair for everybody. What do you guys think of the loot system, Glenn?
I've been a fan of this style loot system even with when it came into WoW's LFR. Unfortunately, there's a lot of QQers out there that cry about unbalanced and unfair, and people have better rolls or luckier rolls, but it is the most fair that you can get. It's also going to help the smaller guild, the smaller guy, just because with it even going into guild groups, you can't have those stupid drama fights about loot anymore. It takes a lot of the drama out of what a guild can be, and it brings just friendship and camaraderie. You can't hate on somebody, and I think it'll be better for the players in general.
Yeah, I think it helps bring a balance to it.
I agree, but I think we stated this in an earlier video, or I don't know if this was just a private chat amongst us or whatnot, but I think we should be given the option to go with this loot system, or if we wanted to, say, go with a loot system that we've been using for a while, we should have the option to go with that. The social loot system this loot system works great for, like they said, smaller guilds and guilds that don't want to have any of that drama, but at the same time, I think you should be able to have that option to use a loot system like EPGP or the loot system that we built for SOLTOR or something like that. We should have that option if we wanted to go with that, if we didn't really want to do the loot system that they're implementing.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, I think the biggest thing, and you can even think back to SWTOR, I mean, it was a great system we used, and it was very fair, but it also boiled down to when you have only so many people in the raid, how often are you using it? I mean, we eventually got to the point in Star Wars where, okay, you needed it, if you don't, and it worked out fine. Instead of maybe being able to override the system, maybe just do something as simple as, if you get a piece of loot but you'd prefer that somebody else were to get it, you don't need it, or for some reason within your guild hierarchy that person really doesn't deserve it, I mean, of course it's going to be hard to steal it. Just some sort of trading system I think could be implemented.
Yeah.
Have they said
Go ahead.
Have they said anything about whether it's going to be automatically bound to you, or if it's going to be tradable with people in the instance, like in WoW?
From what I know, they haven't talked about the binding system for loot at all.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, me neither. And Glenn, like I said, I agree with you completely as to that system, especially for smaller guilds. And for our 16-man system, our loot system worked great. But as our 16-man started to fall apart and we went to the 8-man, our other system worked great. But um, I don't see any problems with this system whatsoever. I just think that you should have that option if wanted.
Yeah, and I definitely understand the control for larger raids. You need it when you're dealing with a large amount of people.
Now,
My opinion.
sorry.
Sorry. I was just gonna say, my opinion on it is, I like it for like a public setting. Like if you're just doing a random dungeon, with 5 people, I like it for that because it means if you do your job good, if I the best tank I can be and my finesse is all the way up there, I'm gonna get the max reward. If one of my DPS in the group is really slacking off, he may not get as good of a reward as he could have. I'm not really that big of a fan of it in a raid setting, because to say that, a healer keeping his finesse up all the time is the optimal way that you need to do that encounter. I'd rather have the option of, having, like a master loot or something like that in a raid setting. I do like it, open world public dungeon, but not for a raid.
Yeah, but see, I agree, but that goes both ways. For larger raids, that should a loot system where it's based off of like EPGP or DKP. I think something like that is needed because you got, let's say it's a go back to original WoW. You got your 40-man raid. You got 30 people who have been there in and out all the time, constantly, and they're still waiting for gear. The new guy just can't come in and take that gear because he hasn't earned his stripes yet. In this type of system, in a larger group, this guy can be waiting for this piece of gear. This new guy can come in and automatically get that piece of gear. That can cause some problems. So, I mean, in a larger setting, I see a traditional loot system being more fitting than the loot system that they're implementing. And for smaller guilds, small little like 10-man guilds or something like that, this loot system is more fitting, or vice versa, depending on the way that the people in that guild or raid feel and how they get along with each other. I think, like I said, it should vary depending on the guild, the officers, and the size in particular.
Yeah.
I think the a trading aspect can actually alleviate a lot of what you're talking about. Now, when you get into the truly random stuff like an LFR, that of course that doesn't work because everybody's out for their own for usually. So, different story there.
Yeah, like I totally like this system. You guys brought up some great points, especially Rapid with the rating, because maybe a healer's dedicated to healing one person, or healing a group of people, depending on what kind of fight it is, and because of that, their finesse system is going to go down. Now, I'm also for Altair's idea of being able to choose, because what if you're doing a raid, but you've got in some new recruits into your guild, and usually with new recruits you have a probationary period. With this system currently that we are talking about, anybody can get loot, so even this probation period, probies can get it. So if we go and kill a progression boss, these guys are getting free loot, better loot than they probably would have been able to get from other guilds, especially if you're on the cutting edge of progression. It's just, I seem that to be a little bit unfair for the guild when you can be giving guild the loot over probationary period probies.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is with their system, is to cut down on the drama, and exactly like you said, all I see is that adding more drama to the situation. The veteran raiders who just down that progression boss are going to get pissed. The leadership's going to be like, well, we don't need to be getting, this guy, this gear. It's just going to cause problems unless we can choose.
Well, yeah, and like we've been saying, for like the probationary period and stuff like that, we usually do like a 1 or 2 week probationary period, depending on the game, where you can earn points. You just can't get any loot until you prove yourself as a person of the guild, and that kind of alleviates any type of ninja looting and stuff like that. You come in, you get a piece of gear, and then you quit guild and stuff like that. Doing it the traditional way with the probationary period kind of alleviates that. So I'd like that aspect because it'll sort of weed out the people who aren't gonna stay with the guild and become ninja looters and stuff.
The ninja looting would be my biggest fear. I know this is lazy and just bad leadership in a sense, but the only good thing you can say about anybody in a probationary period getting gear, or anybody that really isn't contributing getting gear in their system, if you don't have any control, is just the fact that you don't have any control. There's nobody to get mad at. I'm not saying it's right and it should work it that way, but I mean, you at least have your drama reducer still, but that would be unfortunate.
One thing to also keep in mind is you can join multiple guilds in this game, so maybe you'll get loot from one guild and another guild you'll have set up for like a social part, or so that I think that in itself is going to play a really big role into the loot system as well, as to why they're giving out loot to everybody, because again, you can join any guild.
Well, the other question is, are they going to have lockouts? That could be another subject, but, I mean, it doesn't matter how guilds you are if you're going to be locked out.
What do you mean by locked out? Oh, you mean like raid lockouts, like WoW?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on that topic of lockouts, do you think there will be lockouts? Like, do you think endgame bosses should have a lockout?
Well, I mean, it keeps an MMO alive, that's for sure. You get a group of guys that have nothing to do in their lives, you know, a bunch of Garbracs together, and they're going to be geared in a week if there's no lockouts.
That's very true.
I take offense to that, by the way.
You shouldn't. It's you, and you know it is.
That is very true, but to hit on the actual topic, I agree. There should be some sort of lockout. It, like they said, keeps an MMO going. It also, I mean, it stops the people from farming and hoarding a boss and stuff like that, and it prevents the game from dying down so quickly, because most guilds raid anywhere from 2 to 4 nights a week, give or take, and if you're struggling on a boss, you do it in your 4 nights, you come back next week, you figure it out, instead of in and out all night, and then if you finally clear it, you go back in and do it again. By the second or third week, the entire raid has been cleared, everybody's got all their gear. What's the point in going back in, and what's the point of the end game content if there's no lockout period and you can do it as often as you want, whenever you want?
I agree with that. There should be a lockout. Now, it may depend, you know, it's how strict of a lockout is going to be. Can you run it once a week, period? Or if they're going to say you can be a member of 2 or 3 guilds, you can run with, you know, 2 or 3 times a week. I guess that's yet to be determined how they're going to do all the social stuff for the guilds.
I think it hopefully goes well with their loot system. I mean, if you don't give any control to loot drops, I think you almost need to have more than one lockout, or more than one run available in a week, but that's just my opinion.
And I will say this, having the ability to run it more than once a week will benefit the smaller guilds. You know, large guilds where, you know, you have more than enough people to run every class of instance kind of thing, it becomes reasonably easy. You know, especially if it's a very cooperative crew. When it's smaller, it becomes much harder.
The only thing with that is, though, if you allow multiple runs with multiple guilds, like 1 run per guild, let's say, what's to stop people from making multiple guilds and all joining them together and just farming a boss endlessly until they get the loot that they want for the entire week? I mean, that would kill the point of... It would just kill...
They gotta tie
It would
it
kill
to
the content.
the
Well,
character, like it in MMOs now. Like you have a personal lockout.
Well, and as I said, it will depend on what's going on. Like, if you can just be a member of, like, 5-10 guilds and you get 1 run per guild, then yeah, of course, that's basically the same thing as not having a lockout at all. If you can only do 2 guilds or 3, and that's your limitation, for example, then that might make it a little bit more reasonable. Like I said, it all depends on the scale again, right?
Now, if they wanted to do, like, if there were different difficulty levels, like if they had a normal or heroic, and then whatever, if they did one lockout per difficulty period, I would be okay with that. But if you could run the same difficulty 3 times in a week, that would be a bit much to me, at least.
Well, on that topic, I mean, you brought up the topic of regular and hardcore. What are your guys' opinion on that? I mean, this game is supposed to be designed for everybody. Do you guys feel that having a heroic or hardcore section kind of splits a line between people? You have to be a hardcore player in order to get into these heroic modes?
I don't, no, I don't think you need to be a hardcore player to get into the hardcore modes. Yes, this game is made for everybody, but in that aspect, you have to cater to both sides of the spectrum. You've got your casual players who, yeah, they want some of the best loot, but they're not all concerned about it. If they don't get it, big deal. And then you have your hardcore players where all they do is play the game to be the best. So you need to cater to both of them. And I mean, yes, of course, heroic is going to be that much harder than the standard version. But if you've got a group of people who want to go into that and are dedicated to do that, regardless of their casual or hardcore or whatever, if they work together as a good group, they should be able to overcome the challenges as long as they do and play as required.
The way I see it is, every game has difficulty levels. I mean, single-player games, and now MMOs do as well. I just see it as a difficulty level. You know, you wanna play on God mode, go ahead, play on God mode. So I just think it's that way. I think the biggest trouble the developers push themselves into with those types of situation is how much more do you reward those hardcore people or those harder modes than you reward the standard player. I mean, that's where the difficulty comes in.
And where would you think is a fair medium for that? Like, because you need to have a relatively high difference between the two modes. Otherwise, what's the reason for doing it?
Well, I mean, what's the reason for beating a single-player game on the hardest difficulty? I mean, in my opinion, isn't it always usually, you know, just that self-gratification, pat yourself on the back ordeal? I mean, how many single-player games, I mean, not that you're going to get reward out of a single-player game compared to an MMO, but still, why else? I mean, if you're going to get the same story, why not play it on easy? But
Yeah.
in that sense, I mean, go ahead, Altair. I really don't have a good answer.
Yeah, like Glenn was saying, a lot of your single-player games, like I'm a big BioWare fan. I've played Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and whatever. I beat Dragon Age on Nightmare mode. I've beaten Mass Effect on Insanity mode. And what's the point of doing that other than for some achievements? Some of them have extra things where you get a special weapon and stuff like that, but half the time you don't even use that weapon. So what is the real point to do that other than just the satisfaction that you beat it on the hardest mode? With MMOs, the harder modes come with different gear, better gear with more stats and stuff like that. So I mean, it really comes down to the player. Why do you want to play it? I want to play the harder modes to say that I was able to beat the harder modes and to get that better gear personally.
Well, we have somebody in chat who's saying they've already come out and said that Heroic Dungeons will have more of a storyline and more bosses than a standard mode will.
And I think that's great. I mean, honestly, that's reward enough for me.
They did that in WoW in one of the new dungeons. The only way you can get to the last boss of the dungeon or the extra boss is to do it in heroic, and kind of like the way that they did it in Ulduar with Algalon, where you had to have all the pieces brought together. You had to finish it on heroic, and then you could fight them.
They've toyed that with a couple raids, and I think it's a good idea. I mean, for somebody that is very enjoying of lore, story, and all that, I can say that during the times of Cataclysm, I was not in any kind of heroic raiding guild that I couldn't see, was it Sindragosa or whatever her name is, Deathwing Consort, that fight. I mean, from what I heard, it was a very good, challenging fight, and I think that's a good goal in my opinion.
Well, take a look at us. I mean, we were in SOTOR. We could have easily jumped into 16-man nightmare modes, but did we ever do it? No, we stayed and did the hard modes. There was no real benefit to doing the nightmares.
Well, and if they actually do include, extended story content or storyline, I think that's a great idea. Because, I mean, yes, I like the gear, I like being able to do all that kind of stuff. It's, another feather in your hat. But the access to the extra story just improves or extends the life of the game that much more.
I like that idea. I think it gives it gives the hardcore guys something extra other than just saying, like, look at me, I did this, and comparing yourself to other people. It gives them a little bit more. And it also gives maybe the casual people who haven't really ever considered, like, hardcore raiding and seeing what all that entails. Maybe they want to start trying to get into that.
I think it's a good way to deal with the, multiple aspects of play.
Do you think this game will be on the quote-unquote hardcore level as World of Warcraft is for the raiding? Like, World of Warcraft was at one point known for raiding. That's, if you wanted to call it an e-sport, I mean, when they did BlizzCon, they did tournaments as to who can clear the raid the best, or the fastest. So, do you think Elder Scrolls Online will have that competitive edge?
I don't think it will at first, myself.
I think it hinges on a lot of things. Basically, how good the game is. If it brings people to it, that high-end rating scene will naturally form. You could already see it start to form in SWTOR a little bit. But, they had their own problems. But anyway, I think if the game is good and if the rating is good, I think the hardcore scene will totally follow it.
Yeah, if the fan base is large enough, of course, I think they will. Like the other games have, WoW and, as you say, SWTOR.
So on the topic of having the competitive edge, there's been a lot of forum posts regarding skill. Elder Scrolls Online only has 6 buttons to your hotbar. Does that mean it has no skill to play?
No, not at all. With any video game, MMO, whatever, regardless of how many skills you have to know which ones of your abilities to use for which fights and stuff like that. So yes, while you only have six what do you call it, bars, you still need to be able to know which ones you use at the right time and be able to pay attention to what's going on to be able to do your job properly and win.
It reminds me of the original Guild Wars. They had it set where you could only have 8 skills on your bar, and as soon as you left town, you were stuck with that. Until you zoned into another safe place, you couldn't change your skills. Now, I don't know if they're going to do anything like that. I doubt they will because it's not instance like that was. But you had to know your skills, you had to pick your skills wisely, and you had to know how to play your class. I think it does bring a bit more strategy to it, but I don't know if that's necessarily skill. Because I'm sure you'll still be able to face roll, but at the same time you'll need to know better how to play your class and to put more time into understanding it to be really good at it.
I think between 2 different things. With the 6 buttons, they've mentioned finesse a lot, and that comes into loot and stuff. Like you said, it's how you play, knowing when to play, what abilities, timing and the whole bit. And then you've got the active dodge thing in too, which means you're gonna have to pay a whole lot more attention to that. I don't think you'd want like 25 abilities to be able to muck around with.
I think from what I know, and just based on the single player games, I think the best part about it, not even specifically just talking about the 6 buttons, but just the gameplay in general and the fighting styles, I think the hardest thing is going to be that, I don't care how many buttons you have, is resource management. Just knowing how the stamina system works in the single-player games now, I think that's going to be any player's biggest struggle at first. Everyone's going to blow all their stamina right in the beginning and then just sit there and click their mouse. I think it's going to be the hardest part of the fighting style for any long-term fight, that is, some sort of raid fight or anything.
I kind of agree with what everyone said. I mean, I think with the finesse system, with the synergy system, doing stuff with friends, all those things kind of combined, I think allows there to be a really high skill cap. You know, it's not, you know, like, well, I guess I press 1, 2, 3, and that's my rotation. No, I think Tessa's going to be a lot more complicated than that in the combat aspect.
Yeah, we don't need to see the Arcane Mage all over again.
I was just thinking that. I mean, World of Warcraft, there's certain classes that have very little buttons. Arcane Mage, for one, has got a 4-button rotation. Whereas you play a warrior, tank specifically. I actually had most of my buttons bound to my mouse, so I mean, there's 13 buttons there. But I don't think having a lot of buttons means skill, especially when you take into consideration all the features and mechanics that Elder Scrolls Online is going to have. The soft synergies, the combos, the active dodge, active block is a big one. The fact that you're no longer relying on a random number generator to say, hey, you blocked, it's all put into the player's hands, I think is a huge point towards the skill section.
There's a reason
I agree
love
with
range.
that completely.
What was that, Hayyt?
Sorry, I was saying there's a reason I love ranged players, or DPS.
I think my point on that is I was just reading some forum posts, and I know we beat WoW, but I mean, what other dying horse is there? But anyways, I was reading a forum post talking about some classes changed with World of Warcraft's big change coming up, and there was a warrior complaining on there about his rotation being too simple, and he just wanted the developers to just throw another button in there to spice things up. And I'm just thinking, is that really all you need to spice things up? And I think that's the sad part about what skill systems in current MMOs are. It's just, how many buttons do you need? It's not buttons. You need a completely different change, and I think this will definitely give the skill requirements that everyone's looking for.
Yeah, and what Physic is asking in the chat, he's asking, what are we talking about when we say active dodge? Elder Scrolls Online is going to work on a sort of similar to line of sight attack system. There is tab targeting, there is a locking mechanic, but you are able to evade attacks by getting out of the way. And same with active blocking, you are able to block whenever you want based off of your stamina. So if you have enough resources to do it, you can block. What do you think, Gooey, or did you fall asleep?
I'm sorry, I was actually talking to one of my family members and missed the last little bit of that.
Ah. Alright. Well, we're not repeating it.
Are you talking about just the skill in general, or the synergy system?
No, the active dodge, active defense, if you will.
It's gonna be I like it because if it's gonna be a lot more than, oh, here's a purple circle, you stand in it and you die. If you're actually gonna have to be able to see, you know, okay, they're swinging from this way, I need to move this way to move out of it. It's going to take more thought. It's going to be more than, oh, here's a bad color on the ground, don't stand on it. And it's not just easy.
That's not active dodge, though. That's just don't stand in the fire. But yeah, I think my biggest thing, like what Gooey's trying to say, is you have to pay attention. That's the biggest thing. I mean, there's raid awareness, I understand that, but you have to pay attention.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time, after the first time I ran LFR, I didn't pay one bit of attention to the fights. I mean, not seriously, and I want to have to do that. I want a game that engages me.
Don't even get me started on LFR. LFR was a stupid invention into that game. Deacon made a pretty good comment. I mean, he said, I think the hardest thing to get used to in the combat will be the no cooldowns. Most people are used to cooldowns dictating their rotation. And I mean, if you go to websites like noxic.com, the rotations are based off of what cooldowns you're going to have available to you. Having a game that has 0 cooldowns, it's all you managing your resources. Now, obviously, when the game's released, give it a couple weeks, and people will fine-tune a rotation. You will have the typical rotation that people will recommend, but because you can master pretty much any skill, you can evolve that rotation into pretty much anything. Got quiet, so I'm going to think nobody has anything else to say.
I have something that I would like to talk about.
Sure.
My biggest concern with this game is the lack of being able to, like, right-click your mouse and, like, free look around. I'm worried that's just gonna make the rating stale, because they've assigned, like, block to right-click. So, like, try to go PvP or try to go raid with just, like, WASD. It's just, I don't know, that's the thing that worries me about this game, and like, if it doesn't have something where you can, like, get out of stuff quickly, it just seems like it's not really going to be that viable in a rating sense.
Well, I would think you could remap your keys and be alright.
Well,
I almost like the realism in that, though. I mean, I understand the ability, hopefully you can set a key binding to look around a little bit, but I look at it as the realism in the sense that, you know, if you're out there hacking at someone with a sword, you don't have eyes on the back of your head to see someone sneaking up behind you. I understand that might be a cop-out in a gaming perspective, but, I mean, if you're at all thinking of realism sense to it, I mean, it fits the bill, in my opinion.
But can they make the difficulty of the PvE raids high enough without that being in there? I mean, I know if that wasn't in there in WoW and they tuned it around there, those raids would be really boring, just dodging mechanics just by hitting left strafe, right strafe, forward, back. I feel like playing Frogger or something.
Well, if you go back to the stuff we were speaking about earlier about the public instances and public raids, I mean, that brings a whole lot more back the situational awareness level. Again, increasing your gameplay and skill necessary.
yeah, so just on the topic of how it's going to look, there's a lot of discussion in the chat. You will have like a third person and you'll have a first person. And speaking of the field of view, you will have a radar, so you can't look around using the mouse or anything like that. You actually have to physically move your character. But you do have a radar. Now, the one thing a lot of people haven't mentioned in almost every article is that radar is a 45-degree angle point of view. You can't see anything outside the lighted area.
So what's the point of a whole radar?
I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be something similar to like World of Warcraft's minimap where it shows you things on it, like nodes or something. They haven't said, unfortunately. But hopefully we can get into the beta and see firsthand, but keep it hush-hush.
See it and don't speak of it.
Yep.
Well, I mean, hopefully we'll all get in. Everybody's included it under the NDA, and we can discuss it at least amongst ourselves as much as we wish.
Well,
Unstreamed.
yeah, of course, unstreamed. But even still, amongst ourselves, it's still an iffy situation. Ideally, what I would like to see, and most companies do this when they do a closed beta with an NDA, is they open up a public forum, not a public forum, but a closed forum that only the accounts that have access to the beta are able to get in.
Yeah, that's very typical these days.
And no, I'm pretty sure Gooey might have fallen asleep once or twice. I'm not sure.
No, I'm not
he's
playing
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Are you playing Pokemon?
I'm not
during-
playing Pokemon.
Dude, you better not be playing Pokemon.
I'm playing Metroid Fusion.
Just as bad.
You said no Pokemon, so I didn't play Pokemon. Get over it.
I was just playing offensive combat.
You guys are horrible.
I need another monitor then.
I thought you already had 2. Oh, you're
Yeah.
3.
No, I only have 2 at the moment. I gotta get another 27-inch. Sorry, I'm off topic. Back to.
Well, I mean, I think we've nailed the loot. We've nailed the public. I mean, pretty much. I think we've done all the topics for today. I would like to hear some topics for next week if anybody has any. And I'm going to take this time on every Monday, starting last Monday. I'm going to put a post on our forum, so follow me on Twitter if you want to know when it goes up. If you want to partake in the stream, being on the stream itself, take part in the discussion on Mumble, just sign up there. There's going to be 3 reserve spots for Clearing Call members, and then there's going to be 3 spots for whoever wants to sign up. So definitely hit up on that. Rapid, did you want to speak about your Midnight Rivalries?
Sure.
What?
It's Midnight Reveries. Basically, we are a guild that started in around 2001, so a while back, in Anarchy Online. Since then, we've moved, to WoW 2004, then to SWOTOR, and then back to WoW a little bit. But basically, our next game we're looking at getting into with hardcore PvE is going to be Elder Scrolls Online. So we've already started recruitment. I will link the website for you guys. So, if you're interested in trying to get into hardcore PvE, or if you've had experience in the past, I urge you to go and apply. Hit the info button at the top, and you can see all about our raid philosophy or anything like that you want to know. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and PM me on that website.
Does anybody else have any final thoughts on Elder Scrolls or any topics for next week?
I think everybody's going to be sitting, well, not so patiently, fingers crossed, waiting for the beta open.
Yeah, do we have any predictions on when we think they're going to release the first wave of invites?
Well, have they even announced it? Is there any rumors? Because the rumor mill for any large game is always, churning.
Well, they said weeks to months. They said in the weeks and months to follow.
From everything I've read so far, they're not doing it yet, but they said they're going to do it in the coming weeks, the first wave. And I would assume they'll probably do a wave of invites maybe every 2 to 3 weeks probably. And it's going to be static, so they're going to have a schedule, so it'll be up for 4 or 5 hours a day, and then down for a few days, and then up again.
And do we know, or have they hinted at what they're going to do for the waves? Is it a set amount? Like, are they going to open for, as many other games have done, just a small amount for the first stage of beta, and then gradually release, have a greater amount of influx of people each new wave?
They haven't said exactly how many numbers there's going to be, but I hope they invite people that have a lot of history in beta testing. A lot of people don't realize how important closed beta testing is, and they just jump in to play the game early so they can see it, but that's not what it's about. So I hope they get some really good people that have a lot of history behind them with beta testing.
I also hope they implement, they try to do like getting guilds in there for the beta testing and stuff as well. Like you said, beta testing is a lot more than just playing the game and seeing the content early. You got to help them out, find bugs, and practically try and break the game so they can fix it and make sure it's the best it possibly can be for when it actually launches to the general public. But I think it'd be really cool if they tried to do some type of beta guild invites where if so many people from your guild signed up for the beta, they'll give people in that guild the option to join.
Well, an interesting thing with that beta sign up was they had a section for your guild and your guild website. So I wonder there's a reason they're doing that. I wonder if they're gonna try and filter it so they don't invite a bunch of people from the same guild, or if they want to kind of keep the same guilds going, or if they're going to filter it and say, okay, well, this guild's a big guild, we've known about them, we want to get them in it, or I wonder what they're going to do with that. There's a reason it's there.
I
It would
think
definitely make more sense to invite more people or from a guild that's in more often, just so they can test some of their bigger encounters.
Yeah, well, and it sounds from everything I've read and everything I've heard is that they're actually doing this as a real beta, as opposed to a PR run. And there have been games out there that have done that. It's basically they're closed beta and then into open beta. Obviously, it's just the game is pretty much launchable, but they want extra hype, so they've done that. Now, I don't think that's what's going to be going on here with the Elder Scrolls, but you never know. I think they're introducing too much new content and new style to actually pull something like that off.
Deacon made a comment. He's like, I baited SOTOR. Sorry about that. It did ask us if we beta tested SOTOR, so I wonder if that's cutting our Achilles heel on that one.
Did they ask specifically about that? I forgot. I thought they just asked what you had baited in your past.
Well, that's what they asked us. They asked us what have we done in our past, and I wonder if that was like a trick question. If anybody that Mark said, it's like, oh no, you're not good. Bye.
Wait,
Don't
well,
blame me
I doubt it.
Don't blame me. I gave the feedback. I told them everything that was wrong, and they still went through with it. So
Yeah.
that's on them.
Like you even said, Kurt, you have pages of stuff that you sent to them that they haven't done yet.
Yeah.
There was
sad.
a tweet today that had me laugh my ass off. I'll see if I can find it. Dang.
Must have been one of mine. Mine are pretty
Angry Wampa.
I'll find it. Keep talking.
Sorry about that, Kurt. I was just saying, just look out for the Angry Wampa.
Yeah. It's sad. I recorded that with one of my camcorders, and it's still on the camcorder to this day. And I was watching it the other day on the TV for some reason because I was that bored. And I'm like, wow, all this stuff is still broken.
I don't think that beta testing SWTOR itself was a bad thing. I think that it was just what they did was bad. Sorry,
I think it's funny that they blamed it on the players.
Alright, I found it. This is from a guild called Guild Umbra. I guess they played SWTOR and now they're playing Tesso. But he says, I can't create any more tickets in SWTOR because I've reported too many people for map hacks, print screen hacks, and teleport hacks fail. Well, I think that's just sad.
I'm pretty sure I capped out on, or pretty close to capping out on how many you can send. I sent probably 3 or 4 a day. Easily.
Well, there is a reason I left that game.
Oh, there's a reason we all left that game. I mean, even the free-to-play... It sucks that I'm saying this, and I'm saying how bad the game is. I will be playing the expansion.
Really?
Yeah. I have to.
I think I might go back and check it out again. I have a number of people encouraging me to.
Oh, no.
Only reason I would do it is to continue my Trooper storyline.
That's why I'm doing it. There's new storyline, there's new companions... No, there's no new companion storylines. But there's new class storylines, and I have to. I got 6 characters that I have to level up through it, and I have to get their story done. I mean, if there's something for me to do, I have to do it. It's why I went back to WoW and played Miss. There was a new thing. I had to do it.
Yeah.
OCD.
Yeah, with that and SWTOR. Overall, personally, I think it was a good game. There was a lot of stuff that was broken and they should have fixed, but their story, the storyline as far as the class story, I think they surpassed most MMOs with their story, though their rating parts sucked ass. The story aspect of it was amazing, and I'm definitely going to play the expansion and go through the story for all my tunes again. That I really enjoyed the story and look forward to that type of stuff.
Well, everybody, I think, that's ever watched this stream knows my issue with the SWTOR story. I think they did a phenomenal job when it comes to the personal storyline. I think it sucked when it came to the raid storyline and the Flashpoint storyline. But kind of keeping it with the Elder Scrolls Online stuff, just a question popped in my head. What do you guys think is the worst thing that they can do with the Elder Scrolls storyline that will make you maybe not play the game again?
Not give the raids any sort of storyline, or not connect the raid storyline to the actual storyline from the game like they did with SWTOR.
Yep.
Yeah,
Agree.
I agree wholeheartedly. Massively disjointed or storyline with no continuity to it at all, that's a good way to get people to leave.
Yeah, and that I think is exactly my same thing. I mean, that's why I hate SWTOR. There's storylines in the raids that make sense, but there's no storylines that tie that raid into exactly what's happening. And on top of that, I played on the Republic side, and you don't ever find out what happened to Revan. Apparently he dies by the Empire. They go kill him, and you don't find this out, and it's bugging me.
See, I wonder, though, on the other side, if the Empire never really found out that you killed the False Emperor.
It's a good question.
I'm
Altair?
not sure.
No, I don't think they know that you killed the false emperor, or the I know they know that you killed. I don't even think they know you killed the emperor.
How do they not know that? That's a bad loophole for them to leave.
I mean, they know, it's just, well, I mean, you assume they know, it's just they don't tell the players, is what I'm more referring to.
Well, according to the people in chat, they do know it is, False Emperor is a both faction dungeon. But, again, you don't take your major PR guy and have him killed by a 5-man by throwing him off with a grenade. You just don't do that. This guy has conquered so many planets, and yet little 5 people can go and kill him. But yet entire planets fall to their knees.
Well, when we had a thing going the entire time when we kept running that he isn't really dead. Now, I want to know if the game hadn't kind of fallen apart. And by kind of, I mean if it hadn't really fallen apart within the first 6 months, would they have continued that and brought him back and made him be part of a major story arc and an expansion? Because that's very plausible.
Well, I mean, it's still plausible. They're doing expansions.
And they have to do something with it.
I don't
I'm
call free-to-play
surprised.
successful.
I'm surprised their first expansion is about the cartel. I mean, haven't they beaten the cartel already a bit much in the beginning? I mean, you already had how much going on with the Hutts. You already had one raid. Why do you need a whole nother expansion? But that's just me.
Suki's got a good topic.
What will ESO launch as? We've actually talked about that, but I'm up for talking about that again because that is a pretty big topic in itself.
Here's my opinion. I think if ESO wants to be a legitimate MMO, regardless of what makes the most monetary sense, they have to go for a sub-model. People don't take MMOs serious that don't have a sub-model. The only reason why Guild Wars 2 can run on that buy-to-play model is because Guild Wars 1 was that way, and that was what people were expecting.
Yeah, it was the first one, and it was already set for how that game ran.
I just, for me personally, like, paying a sub means that I'm basically telling the company, hey, I'm giving you money every month, you need to be putting out good content. Because whenever I play a MMO, I really don't play too many other games. That's kind of my entertainment, Going hardcore in MMO is fun for me. So, not going out to the movies and stuff, my entertainment budget is kind of MMO, so, I expect content out of it. I think if you do like a free-to-play model, or buy-to-play model, you just end up not expecting that much from it.
Well, see, I agree and I disagree. I mean, look at Path of Exile. It doesn't get the PR that it should. I mean, it's a phenomenal game. It's classed as an MMO. It's free to play, and it's probably one of the best dungeon crawlers I've ever played. Guild Wars 2, it's buy to play. It's a decent game. I mean, it's definitely got its flaws. I mean, once you hit level cap, what the hell is there to do? PvP's fun. Structured PvP's fun. World versus World's stupid because you can't render everybody on the same screen, so you're going to die to a ghost. World of Warcraft started... I don't want to say started, because I mean every other game has been previously a subscription-based model. But when you think of pay-to-play, everyone thinks World of Warcraft. But why? Like, why does it have to be pay-to-play? You said that your money goes to producing content. But there's bugs in World of Warcraft that have been there for a while. Specifically the Paladin, the bug right now that allows a level 80 to kill level 90 mobs and bosses.
Well, they hotfixed that.
They did, after 3 weeks of people killing bosses. But yes, it does get hotfixed, and I mean bugs in Guild Wars 2 gets hotfixed as well. So the argument of your money goes to get things done faster, I just don't think is valid anymore. Guild Wars, I think, has proven that.
Yeah, but Guild Wars doesn't have any in-game content.
True.
Like, that's
True.
what I expect my $15 a month or whatever it is to go towards, to continually produce content in-game, so I continually have stuff to do in-game.
Quality content.
Exactly. It should be content patches in-game. You know, maybe every once in a while come out with an expansion for like $20 because you've already been charging people $15 a month. You know, I'm not saying WoW is end all. You know, I have a lot of problems with WoW, but you know, I think that's what I expect out of a AAA title MMO is you know, a monthly subscription fee and what goes along with it.
One thing that's always plagued me, and I can never find an answer, and I don't know if anybody can actually legitimately answer this, but it's a little bit off topic as to the pay-to-play or whatever. Where did the $14.95 price come from? Like, I know it's a random topic, but why $14.95? Why not $9.99? Like, why not $5.99? Why $14.95?
First of all, who pays $6 a month?
Yeah, EQ, Zuki said. You can probably go into it more because he played the shit out of that, but...
I'm sure it's, I'm sure there's statisticians that have looked at it well enough and said, oh, you know, $15 a month, that's less than your daily cup of coffee, and go from there.
If it's a quality game, quality content, you know, I don't mind that. Like, basically $20 or less, it doesn't bother me. It's super cheap. Like, geez, when I go out to the bar with friends and stuff, it's a multi-$100 a night. You know, like $200 going out for dinner and drinks and everything else like that. How many months of fun is that?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people who play MMOs, and especially the more hardcore people who play MMOs, think of how much time you're spending, like, on that game. I mean, it's an investment, you know. Those people generally don't go out, you know, every night. I'm totally, like, digging, like, a massive hole for myself and
stereotype
people,
those geeks some more.
Yeah,
that's
but
it.
I mean, you have to look at it that way, right? A lot of people justify that cost because, you know, they don't do other stuff.
But even, like you say, for example, going out to the movies, right? How much does it cost to go to the movies these days? It's bloody expensive, especially if you go with somebody else.
Or 3D.
You know, yeah, or 3D. Like, I mean, you end up saving a lot of money. And, as like I said, as long as it's good content, good game, it's hours of money well spent.
And I've had this argument with Sarah, not really an argument. I've had this conversation before. She's like, well, why do you spend money on this stuff? But exactly what Hayyt said is, think about how often you go to the movies. So let's say you go to the movies once a month. On average, you're looking to spend about $13 a ticket, minimum. For 2 hours of entertainment, you spend $15 a month for up to 24 hours a day, if you really wanted to, like I do on release days.
Well, I mean, I think we touched on this on a video a while back, but like someone was saying in chat, the money that you spend on the game itself or for paid subscription or whatever goes to the payment for the people who maintain the game, maintain the servers and stuff like that. And while yes, games aren't going to be perfect, as you guys were saying, it's a lot cheaper to spend $15 a month and sit in front of your computer all day than it is to go out to eat. I know when I go to a bar, if I go out on a Friday night or something like that, I'm spending more than $50 because I'm gonna be out from like 8 till like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's a lot of money there. So $15 a month versus $50 on a Friday night. I mean, I'm willing to spend that $15 a month to sit at home and do absolutely nothing but sit in front of a computer. And I mean, I personally don't have a problem paying $15 a month for a game that I enjoy playing if that money is going to ensure that the game stays up and that people are working on fixing some of the problems in the games.
I'll go one further than that. As long as it's a game that seems interesting, Elder Scrolls is going to be one of them. If they came out and it was sub-based, I'd pay it, just simply to see, give it a chance to see what it's going to be like when it comes out. Give that company enough money to stay on its feet long enough to get a good fan base.
I think Tesla's going to be fun. They've got IP and the backing to do all right, and you know they're not necessarily like counting on, okay, we need to sell this many. You know, they're going to get their sales, they're going to get their subscriptions. You know, the ball's in their court on whether they can maintain that and keep people interested. And if they do, they're probably going to pull a shit ton of subs from WoW and from other games. And it's all about keeping those subs. WoW just has way too much of a market share right now. And I know a lot of people play WoW just because there's nothing else out there.
Yeah, that I think is a big thing, is the fact that there really isn't nothing much out there that's similar to WoW, or at least able to take the people from WoW and say, hey, you know what, this game is better, give it a try. I don't remember what I was going to say.
I have trouble when I play a game that's like WoW justifying leaving WoW because I've already put the time into that. Why would I go play a game that's so extremely similar to WoW to just start over when I have a game that's I've already sunk that much time into? Why would I redo that? But I'm really looking forward to the more in depth and the way that they change combat in Tesso and just the different aspect to it, because if it is something that can actually change it, it's the first game that'll be able to pull me out of WoW. And I don't know, I've been playing for about 6 years now and I want to get out of it.
You want to break it.
I went to cancel my WoW subscription the other day and I still can't because I have another month that I have to pay before my annual pass is up, and it made me cry a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Like, I'm gonna have like a little party when you cancel your WoW account. Not because I don't like WoW. You all know I do like WoW. I despise a lot of the features of it. But let's not talk about that. I don't want to get a huge rant about that. Gooey, stop laughing. It's not funny.
But as bad as WoW is for a number of reasons, it's still pretty decent in a constant way. You know, we've all done the Star Wars, and the horse is getting beaten again, I know, but it was just so bad that people left it. You know, we're hoping that, well, sorry, from everything we've heard, Elder Scrolls is going to be different enough and unique enough to bring a bunch of people in to test it out. It's whether the staying power is there, and if it is, you're going to see a lot of people canceling their WoW accounts, I think.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, World of Warcraft is a good game. It's a stable game. It's a place people have called home for, what, close to 8 years now? You've become a little tied to it. You go out, you play another game, you play Star Wars, and you're like, you know what, okay, this game has bugs, I'm not going to play this, let's go back to WoW. I went out and played Guild Wars 2, and you know what, this isn't my type of game, go back to WoW. I've played I've played in the last year. I'd probably say I've played close to 10 to 12 different MMOs, and yet I still kind of lean back towards WoW. The issue is why? Why do I keep leaning back to WoW? Why does everybody
Because
keep
your
leaning
friends
back
are
to
there.
WoW?
It's because your friends are there.
I have no friends. They don't know me
yeah.
yet.
Friends are there, and it's better than anything else, as bad as it may be.
Well, the better than anything else, I think, has to do a lot with the stability and the familiarness that everybody has with WoW. We're all familiar with WoW, the aspects of the game, and a lot of the stuff from the game from all our time playing it, and most of us and a lot of our friends originate from WoW or games prior to that that really aren't running anymore. So I think the reason why everybody defaults back to WoW is because it's familiar, and I mean, what's familiar is what's comfortable, you know?
That's a big part of it for me. I don't want to give up what I'm comfortable with.
And I think that is a big part. Is people don't like change. As much as people say change is good, a lot of the people in the world don't like change. I personally hate it. It scares me.
It's like pulling off a band-aid. You gotta do it. I did it, and it was painful, and I got bored, but I found other stuff to do, and I don't know, it's worth it. I feel so free now.
Don't tease me with your freedom.
I can do anything I want. I don't have to do dailies. I don't have to
Okay,
do
now
achievement
you're lying.
points.
Now you're exaggerating a little bit.
But it's one of those things. If I can find something that's worthy of play on a constant basis, I would give up my WoW account. And I did. You know, there's only one beta I haven't done. You know, all kinds of stuff for WoW.
So here's a question. In all honesty, how much is the maximum that you would pay to play in an MMO?
No more than 15.
Yeah,
The standard.
I think that's pretty well enough.
15's pushing it for me as it is.
I'd pay $20.
What about you, Rapid? What's the maximum you would pay to play?
It's just, I don't know. They would have to give me some damn good reasons on why they were gonna get higher than 15. I mean, $20 a month is pretty steep for an MMO. Like,
Give me a reason.
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, but it's only $5 more than you're paying for WoW, and I'll pay for that privilege to leave the rhetoric that is WoW. You know.
I just think it would turn so many people off, though. Like, they'd be asking themselves, what about this game makes it worth paying, you know, this much more than, you know, a whole fourth more than what I'm paying for WoW, you know?
It's easy. Take a look at our podcast. That will explain it all right there. 25%, man.
I mean, yeah, it's...
And again,
I just don't see it, though, because, like, I don't know, like, do you think Tesla would be successful if they came out tomorrow and said it was going to be $20?
Yeah, you know what? I think it would draw a lot less crowd initially, but, you know, if the hype is to be believed and then becomes proven, I think the $20 won't be a big deterrent. $20 really is not a lot of money. And again, that $15 price, like Garb was saying, where did it come from? It's just a number that the PR guys or some financial wizard came up with and said, great, you're $15 now. Well, WoW was more expensive than $15 when it first came out. They dropped their price.
What was WoW when it first came out?
It was about Canadian. It was about $22 a month.
It might have been different in Canada. It might have been some money transition issues or exchange issues, but in the US it was always 15.
No. If you go back to vanilla days, it was like 18 and change, which worked out to about $20 Canadian-ish.
Yeah.
It's been a really long time. I do remember it being, I think it was like 1749, or I do remember it being a little bit more than Dark Age of Camelot, because when I was playing, I was curious. I'm like, do I want to spend more money?
Well,
No,
and
they
that's-
always have those options on like the 3-month, the 6-month, that you can get it for like $12.99 too. If
Oh,
you're
sure.
down with that investment.
Hmm.
Yeah. It's like, you pay for your porn a year in advance and you get a much cheaper price on it.
Hey, now we're not going to pay for porn. That's what the internet's for.
Patreon's got a good idea too. Like, the opposite direction. What if they made it $10 a month? Do you think people would think it would be too cheap? Do you think they would be like, oh, hey, alright, I'm gonna save $5, try out our new MMO, let's do it?
I think that's exactly what would happen. If they made it $10, $10 instead of 15, or even $12.50 or something like that, less than WoW, I think it would pull even more people, at least initially, away from all the other games, just to, to check it out.
What would you guys think of like a tiered subscription system?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
No,
Like standard users, premium users type of deal?
no. I don't know.
It depends. What would the different levels be? What would you get as
Well, they
being
would
a
have to
normal
gate
user
content,
and stuff like that?
like,
Yeah, they'd have to get content. I'd almost see it as like a very basic user being something like stupid low of like $5 a month and almost have like a Star Wars type system, but then again at that point why not just do free to play and sub options?
Well, not
They,
necessarily. To hit on that topic, if you think about it, they could do certain things. If you were a premium subscriber, you could maybe get different vanity items and stuff like that, or whatever, and make it so a premium player gets stuff that isn't story based or something like that.
I think they could,
Premium will get Loot Master.
I think they could end up doing a subscription model and then do a in-game store with it, as long as that in-game store was like purely cosmetic, like pets or whatever.
Like Guild
hats.
Wars did.
Yeah, just
Well-
like whatever it is, just no impact on the game whatsoever.
Well, on that topic of in-game not auction houses, but in-game stores, a lot of there was a post that I was a member of, like, posting on. A lot of people were totally against having in-game stores or in-game shops because they're like, oh well, it becomes pay to win. You buy your items, but they forget to realize that if you can buy items online and put them in game, that is an online store. It's part of the game store. Think of Blizzard store. It makes Blizzard's thousands of dollars, and it's all cosmetic items. I mean, you can now buy a goat that flies on a cloud with a uniboob.
Yeah, I mean, I think a system like that can work for Tesso.
I really like PlanetSide 2. I haven't played enough of it, but their system so far seems pretty decent. You can purchase weapons instead of earning it. So, I mean, your hardcore players that are there every day, or at least quite often, will get those same weapons, where your very casual player can come in. Now, it's not a pay-to-win, as well as you can pay for all the cosmetic gear. Also, they have a subscription base if you choose to do it, and there are benefits for doing that. I think a multiple-faceted play system is achievable. You just have to be very careful with it, because that pay-to-win becomes highly problematic. You'll lose a lot of people that way.
See,
I don't know,
I
as
don't.
long as they don't.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. As long as they don't go with the system like it was in like SWTOR went to, where you could still subscribe, but you could do the free to play, but you just got like you couldn't do anything in SWTOR without actually like paying for a subscription. You could do like what it was like 2 dungeons a week and like 1 PvP match or some bullshit.
And you basically were paying more than a subscription to get a full subbers option as a free-to-player. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, as long as they don't something like that. Out the gate, I would love for them just to have it, maybe a little bit less, like $12.95 or $13.95 or something. Even probably the same as WoW would be fine too. But just do that out the gate and let the game speak for itself. We'll pay that.
What if they added something in the microtransaction store like what WoW did with, or not WoW, SWTOR did, where you could, actually I don't know if they did that, but where you could buy the raid lockout, a second one for the week.
I think something like that would turn into a pay to win. I mean, if you
Yeah.
can pay money to progress your character in the game, I think it becomes a pay to win aspect, and that I think would turn a lot of people away.
I wouldn't be for it. I was wondering because I remembered they put in SWTOR the option to buy the ability to go into the raid for that week if you were a free subscriber, or you could buy it for someone else. And I wasn't sure if they made it so you could do the lockout more than once.
No,
Or
it wasn't.
what?
It wasn't to do that. It was to give you more days to raid. As a free-to-play player, you can only raid for 2 days. That extends that to however many the cartel point system thing works. But to speak on that, I think what SWTOR did with the cartel store was a great idea. Most of the stuff you get is vanity items, but you can also buy the cartel points gear for your tunes to level up with, and use it to buy stuff from the legacy system and whatnot. So I thought that that was a very good idea, and I wouldn't mind seeing something like that in Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
My thing on that is I wouldn't want to see that right away, and I wouldn't. I think it was a great idea. My biggest beef with the SWTOR system is some of the dumbest things were too restricted, in my opinion. Like taking a profession out, I thought that was weird. But that's just my opinion.
Oh, I agree, but as far as the cartel store went, I thought the way they did that was a great idea.
I love the cartel market, to be honest with you. I think that it was a very smart move on their behalf. Taking out, like Glenn said, taking out that profession, I think was a really stupid idea. At least to the people who already had it. I mean, I think that's just unbelievably silly. You just kicked a lot of people in the arse with that one. But I'm curious, what do you guys think of having a form of legacy system in Elder Scrolls Online? I'm excluding the rewards and stuff like that, but I'm thinking like the family tree aspect. I mean, I found that a really cool thing. All my alts were somehow tied to one of my main characters.
I like that. I like that idea. I would love to see Elder Scrolls build on the legacy system a little more than what SWTOR did. Give you more options with the legacy system, maybe uh, more rewards, so to speak, with it or whatever. But I thought the legacy system was a great idea, and I love being able to mess around and see what having my Sith warrior be the brother to my Jedi Knight, and then have them be on both sides of the spectrum and stuff like that. It added to the story, and I enjoyed that personally.
I think Elder Scrolls will probably do something similar, because if you think about it, with a mega server, I mean, you're going to have repeat names. I think they'll end up having like a last name system, similar to Star Wars, and if Legacy will kind of be tied in with that, maybe. I would just like to see the rewards for Legacy be like, once you level up your main character to, 50 or whatever it is, it's easier to level up additional characters. That way it doesn't, if you've gone through the content one time, that's some of the worst times in MMOs, just leveling up an alt. It's boring because you've been through it all before, and it's just not fun. It feels like something you have to do.
Yeah, but see that's where I think SWTOR surpassed. Yes, you had to go back to all the planets and do all the basic quests again, but every story for every class was different, so it added that sense of unfamiliarity, which everybody likes when they first start playing a game. So since it wasn't familiar, or at least the storyline wasn't familiar, and you were anticipating what's going to happen next in your story, you were okay with going around and doing all the general quests per planet because it helped you level up and be prepared for that boss fight or something like that. So if they were to do something like that, I'd be all for it.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, I think that is definitely something that sets SWTOR aside.
It's probably not going to be like that in Elder Scrolls unless you pick a character from a different faction. If you're an Ebonheart, if you picked Aldmeri Dominion or Daggerfall, you get a different story. But if you pick the same faction, you wouldn't. If you want to, like, you know, say I want to raid on an alt in my guild, you know, now I'm forced to take that alt through the exact same content I went before. I would just like to see some sort of, like, leveling boost, like 50% XP or something like that, so I can get through it sooner. Because, you know, once you've been through something once, it's kind of, it's stale, you know? You've done all the quests, you've seen all the content. You know, you're on a different character using different abilities and stuff, maybe. So it's a little bit new, but I would just like that experience to be a little faster.
Oh, I agree.
Also-
That was my biggest problem with WoW. It took me 4 years to level up another tune to cap level, just because I hated having to go through the same content again and play through the same stuff again. I absolutely hated it. But I mean, there are certain things you can do with level boosting. I think SWTOR did a pretty good job with that through the legacy system. You can use your legacy points per character to, say, increase your XP by a set amount for storyline quests and stuff like that. And they also had XP boosts that you could win and buy with cartel points for, like 3 hours you'll get a 25% XP boost to story quests, or for 3 hours you'll get a 25 experience boost to flash points, or there was one for 3 hours, 25% experience for everything. So they could probably do something like that to increase the experience that you get.
See, I like this idea of increasing the leveling speeds, but it kind of makes me think of World of Warcraft. When you think World of Warcraft, when you first played, it took about, I would say, about 7 days of solid playing to get to max level. Now I can get from 1 to, I'd say, 80 in about 3 days. No, I could probably do it in about 2 days, and I could probably get 80 to 90 in a day and a half. It's funny, there's a lot of talk in chat about it's going to take 120 hours to hit level cap, and I'm thinking, oh great, I'm never going to sleep.
I'll be up with you, buddy, don't worry.
Again,
Not the only one.
nothing to do.
It's not that
Hey,
I
back
don't have
off.
anything to do. I have this stupid compulsion that I have to do it.
I wish I had that option, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to work.
You can
You
always
just have to
call in
work for
sick, you're
yourself,
looking
man.
rather pale.
Well,
Stop.
when they actually release Elder Scrolls, I think I'll take a couple days off of work. I spend enough time there as it is. I think they can give me 3 days off to play a game.
Well, and it's not like you're ever out of touch.
No, their fucking work phone is attached to my goddamn hip.
Yeah, but Garb, you know what that is. For you, it's called OCD, man. Or gaming OCD, at least.
It is. Like, I totally agree, it is. Like I said, I'm going to be playing Star Wars strictly because I have to experience the new things. I'm the type of person, I will play a game fully until, like, just fully, and then probably end up bashing it for some stupid reason. It's not that I don't like the game, it's just that there's certain things that I don't like, specific things. So I'll end up bashing it, but I will never bash a game unless I have played it fully. And because SWTOR's coming out with something new, I lose that bashing aspect. I have to bash it.
Well, you can bash all the old content.
Yeah.
Plus, you never played a Sith.
I have played a Sith.
Did you get him up to level 50?
No,
No.
I stopped playing.
Okay.
Did you get out of the starting area?
Yes. I'm 20 something, and I was like, yeah, okay, no. Come on, you really don't think I played a Sith? I have how many capped out Republic tunes? Do you really think I didn't have a time to level up a Sith character?
You didn't
plenty of
finish
time.
Trooper.
I
Dude,
started with Sith,
you-
and then
You called me a damn traitor for fucking leveling a Sith.
Yeah, you gave all of us so much crap just for even uttering the word Sith.
that's right. I started
You
playing
Kicked
kicked
me out
Altair.
of Mumble. You
And
kicked him out of
and
Mumble
Greg,
because I said Sith.
It's true. I did put a lot of hate towards you guys who wanted to play Sith. That was only because we
You-
were raiding.
you weren't the only one though. Greg was right beside you too.
Greg's a lore junkie.
Shit, when me and Kaffel were leveling up our Sith Tunes, used to throw us into the bad, well, I forget what it was called, but the timeout channel.
I'm pretty sure it was the Kurthal Annoyance channel.
Pain in Kurthel's ass.
That's what it was. It was a pain in Kurthel's ass, right next to the squeaky chair room.
Yeah.
That's right. Fight the power.
Oh no. It became grounded for various reasons.
Yes,
That's right.
that one.
Which
still there.
sorry, they're talking about Alpha in October.
Alpha.
Which Alpha? Oh,
Talking about Tesso.
the Tesso media event. No, I don't think anybody here was able to partake in that. I know a bunch of people who have partaken in that, and that's where a lot of my information comes. I just send them a message, hey, is this what's going on? And they're like, oh yeah.
That's Garb knows somebody who knows somebody that loves somebody.
It's true. Hopefully, the next media event I'll be able to go. Hopefully.
I got a question. Do you think one thing I think Soltor did that was amazing was the Guild Summit? Do you think Tesso will do something similar?
In all honesty, I hope so. I thought the fact that BioWare was reaching out to the guilds, which is what keeps a game alive, was phenomenal. Yes, Blizzard has BlizzCon, and that's a really cool aspect, but I mean, it's BlizzCon. It's all about Blizzard games. It's not about the players. Whereas Guild Summit was all about the players.
Keep your words, or watch your words. You just used BioWare and keep game alive in the same sentence and confused me.
Bioware looked good at the start, but I like the idea of the Guild Summit. Those bastards didn't pick me, but that's another discussion. But I don't know. I thought it was a good idea. Just mismanaged the game.
I think that's
of the game
exactly it.
itself, yeah, the management of SOTOR itself was very, very poor. But BioWare as a whole, they are renowned for their story making. They make some of the best story-based games there is, in my opinion.
Your opinion sucks.
Obviously not some of the best MMOs, because they have no idea what keeps the MMO alive. They didn't give a shit about the end game, apparently. Which
No,
is
I'll agree.
people play the game for the competitive PvP wasn't really there. For the end game with a decent story it wasn't there. The bug-free end game. I could go on. I won't. This is Tesso, not SWOTOR bitch time.
To answer the question, do you think it's possible in the coming years for them to ever get rid of the faction lock territory? No. The reason I say that is because the lore... In order for them to do it, they would have to have another conflict happen in order for the factions to hate each other. On top of it, right now, you have 3 factions that are on the verge of essentially civil war. I mean, you have the I'm thinking the Bretons and the Orcs. They want to kill each other. Who have the Red Guards in between, just basically trying to mediate everything.
The Red Guards don't like him either. The Orcs are the outcasts of that faction.
They are, but I mean they're grouping together out of survival.
Survivability.
That's the only reason they're doing this. But in the future of the Elder Scrolls lore, they go back to hating each other. So there's going to be a conflict somewhere along the lines. If we're going to see it within the Elder Scrolls Online timeline, it's hard to say.
Expansion.
But at some point, they're going to start hating each other again. I mean, it's already written. They can't just be like, oh, that game never existed. They do that with movies, though.
You know, there's a lot of time, so they have a lot of wiggle room.
Oh, yeah, they got 1,000 years to play with, don't they?
Yeah, about that.
Wibbly thank you, Gooey. Wibbly wobbly timey wimey stuff.
Yeah, 15 minutes to midnight.
Yeah, in 15 minutes we'll call it, if not earlier. I mean, we're running out of topics.
We were so far off
Oh,
where
yeah.
we originally intended to end. I mean, you were asking for topics for next week, and we've been talking for an hour and 15 minutes since then.
Yeah, I know. Alright, so now we'll just randomly jabber. Let's get some topics for next week. Does anybody have any topics for next week?
Shout out on chat, guys.
Obviously they're gonna have another weekly thing.
Yes.
We could talk about that.
Hopefully it's a better question. I mean, this question was very... I didn't like it. It was too sparse.
I have to bitch about these questions. I'm sorry. Like, for me, these questions are such bullshit. Like, you've got people like content designers and like quest designers that have so much awesome information are asking me like, what's your favorite time you tripped over a rock? Like,
The
what
prisoner
the fuck,
one.
dude?
I
Come
hated
on.
the prisoner one.
Like,
See, I enjoyed
seriously,
the
you could
prisoner
just
one.
give any little tidbit of information, it would be worth so much more. But instead, it's just like, all right, come sit down, ask the guys, about this stuff. It
Who
just
wore the
feels
favorite
like,
shirt?
Feels like they're making content just to post something every week.
I think my biggest problem with the prisoner one was I'm not an RPer, and that's what it was geared towards. I actually liked the fact, I love the fact of the mystery of why you are in jail, what put you there. So that's why I didn't like the prisoner one.
Let's Let's talk about what we think they're gonna do with guilds. I know we touched base on it a little bit, but let's get more in depth with it. What do you think they can and will do with actual guilds, like player guilds, not like the Dark Brotherhood and stuff like that?
Okay, so like actual player guilds?
Yeah, like our guild or whatever. Let's discuss what options we have with that.
Their housing, have they said anything about that? Because that would go along with the guilds.
They haven't said anything specifically about the housings. They just said that it will be coming at some point. But with that being said, every single MMO in the last 3 years has said housing is coming. It never has.
Yeah, but housing was
The
a
only-
big part of each Elder Scrolls game.
It is.
It was. The only one I've seen with any kind of housing, whether it's individual or guild faction, whatever, is Lotro.
Yeah, I think Lotro
Yeah.
did a great job with the housings. Rift is doing a phenomenal job with Dimensions.
Star Wars Galaxies probably had the best player housing that I've seen in an MMO, because not only did they have housing, they actually had player-run cities too, and you can actually build shuttle ports from other major cities on the map to your guild city. It was pretty cool.
That kind of might be interesting.
Here's a topic we can bring up next week. Speaking of cities, out of all the video games you've played, MMOs you've played, what was your favorite city and why?
That'd be good. I'd like to talk about the map. I don't know what fan site it was, but some guy did a badass article on like everything that we know from all the dev interviews, like what areas each faction is going to have access to. And it's really interesting to look just how much of the game you don't have access to. So I'll try to find that for you, Gar. Maybe we can pull it up on the screen and talk about it.
Yeah, send me the link. Either send it to me on Mumble or hit me up on the website or something. One topic I really want to... we've talked about it before, but I'm trying to see if I can get some information from certain people, is collision detection. I want to see if I can get a hold of some of the people from the alpha test and ask if collision detection was in it.
That would be good. It'd be pretty easy to find out. Just hit up one of those alpha test guys.
It's fun. I've asked 2 people so far about collision detection, and both of them gave me the same answer. They're like, honestly, I didn't notice. I was basically had blindfolders on. I mean,
if
that's
they're
one of the
saying
features you
something
don't
like
really
that-
notice, right?
Well, I think it's something, in my opinion, if they're saying that they didn't notice, then I'm going to assume there is collision detection. Because the first thing that they're going to do when they're playing that game, those alpha testers, is they're going to compare it to, in their mind at least, to the other Elder Scrolls games. And they're going to look for what's different or what sticks out from that. And I think that that's a pretty drastic change enough compared to the single-player games that they would notice it if there wasn't collision detection. If that makes sense.
Nope, that makes sense. So I have, for topics for next week, if I can find some more information on them, player guilds, previous cities, collision detection. There was one that
Map
was in chat.
access.
What was that, Hayyt?
Oh, I was just saying map access. That's what Rapid brought up.
Map access. Okay, that was yes.
This article, just read it and then use that image like at the bottom, because it's really interesting just how limited we're going to be. Like hardly any of Black Marsh down there accessible. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Very cool. Also, I'd maybe like to talk about how important Imperials are going to be in Cyrodiil.
Yes. There was a video. What was I watching? I think I either wrote a video or I either uploaded the video or wrote an article about the Imperials and what they're going to be. I'm trying to remember if I wrote an article. I'm pretty sure I did a video on it.
Well, then re-go over your stuff and we can rehash it here next week or the week after.
Well, yeah, and of course I'll manipulate the suggestions that we have and toss in any new information that comes out this week. Hopefully we get some new information this week. Like I said earlier, to anybody that's new, if you want to partake in joining the stream or joining the discussions, I'm going to put a post up on the Clearing Call website, ccguild.ca, and it's going to have 3 spots reserved for guild members and 3 spots reserved for anybody from the community. If you want to partake, all you gotta do is post, say, I'm going to be there. The stream happens at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, but I request that you be on before that, preferably around 9:30, so we can get everything set up.
And non-members do have access to the site, right? Or at least that part, I hope.
Yes. If you can't post, all you gotta do is make an account. If you register to the forums, you should be able to post everywhere except for guild sections. And I've enabled guests to post on articles and in the video section, which I believe is where this will be posted.
Well, I assume so. Altair, you've put all these videos into there, have you not?
Yeah, we've been messing around with it a little bit, so we have to clean it up a little bit. But yeah, our video page is now active. Give us a little bit, and there will be a full featured search option where you can filter out based off of the type of video it's going to be. But all the videos that are on our YouTube page are now currently on our video page on ccguild.ca.
Yeah, other than that, I think we had a great discussion. I want to thank everybody for showing up to the chat. Thank everyone for showing up to the video. I mean, I really appreciate it. And hopefully, like I said, we can get some more information released by Elder Scrolls and start feeding the need that we have.
Seriously.
Need for speed.
Yeah, just thanks everybody in chat that showed up, from whether from Reddit or just heard by word of mouth or something. Go tell your friends and stuff, and we can get a really good discussion going on here.
Yeah, make it even better. Yeah, I just forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, I'm an old man. It's getting late.
A lot of I'm new to posting stuff on Reddit. I know it's really horrible that I'm agreeing and admitting to that. So a lot of our Clearing Call stuff will be posted on Reddit from now on. I was afraid of that website before, so I went on there for Diablo 3, and that was just a not fun place to be for Diablo 3.
Oh yeah, I know what I was going to say. Is I think we're going to hear more and more from the devs and that whole team as time goes along, and of course as the various betas open up. The floodgates will open, as they say.
Yeah.
On that note, gentlemen, thank you very much for a great evening, and I'm off. We'll see you all next week.
Actually, hey, hold on 5 minutes. I want to ask you something.
I'll stay in mumble for you.
On the ESO subreddit, what about the ESO subreddits? Yeah, I'm not gonna post them all. I'm just gonna post hot topic ones. Yes, I'll post it every hour before it's going to be airing, but it's every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Well, I think Altair mentioned there we're working on the video section of the website. They will go up, once it's all done and set. I would assume within 48 hours the stream will be up.
Oh, this stream will be up on YouTube probably within the next hour.
Yeah, once it's up on YouTube, give it 5 minutes after it's on YouTube, and it'll be on the website. It'll be a couple days before the search function is in full operation, as when we try to search, it breaks the video page. So we're testing some stuff on the back end.
And yeah, I mean, again, I just want to thank everyone for coming. If you ever get bored, I do write articles on the ccguild.ca website. That's in the blog section. Head on, take a look at it. What faction we're playing? We're playing Aldemary Dominion.
My guild is playing Ebonheart Pact.
Yeah, his guild
And
sucks,
we
so
will
we're gonna fight
in
him.
Cyrodiil.
That's our website. If you're a true Ebonheart Pacter.
Is it wrong when I hear Ebonheart Pack, I think of Char?
No. I mean, Ebonheart Pact is pretty much like synonymous with just like winning everything and being the best, so...
Whoa,
that kinda works out.
what are you reading?
I kind of have a line like right to the devs. They
Oh,
assured
okay.
me that Ebonheart Pact is going to win everything.
'Cause
You guys are pretty much screwed.
You do realize that, like, the entire part of Cyrodiil was created by the Altmers?
Bro, Skyrim. Skyrim, that's all I gotta say. Skyrim, Morrowind, I'm done.
That's
Hey, if I can make one last comment that makes me excited about the game, is that all of the polls I've seen so far are extremely well balanced for faction, and I think we should have some good PvP to start.
I agree. And to hit on what Garb was talking about earlier, if you guys want to participate in any of our guild blogs or articles, that stuff I believe is open to non-members of the guild. If the guild blog section isn't, please just drop me or Garb a note on the forums, and we can open that up for you.
yeah, you know that giant tower that we're going to be fighting for, Rapid? You realize that was ours, right?
Bro, did you see me kill that zombie werewolf? Like, were you not even watching?
Did you not see me climb that wall and
Alright,
rip
alright.
3 people from it?
Thanks for watching, guys. Heart Pack for the win.
Yeah.
That's the last word.
The last word, not with Garbrac, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's not gonna let you get the last word. That will not end until he says so.
Yeah, I was about to say, you guys are going to be here for hours.
No, I just hang up.
I will too. I'm getting ready to.
It's okay. I know Rapid's Skype, so I can just constantly spam him.
That's true.
Once again, it was great. The discussion was excellent this evening, guys. Thanks for letting me be a part. Thanks for everybody for being in chat. I'm gone, and we will see you guys next week.
Definitely. Thanks for coming, Hayyt.
Yep, and pull you down real quick, Hayyt.
I'm heading out too, guys. Good night, and see you in a
Good
week.
night, everyone.
Yep. Thanks again, guys.
See ya.